Meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Petrillo,
Present.
Councilor David Romero,
Here.
Councilor Jane Rodriguez,
Present.
Councilor Michael Montoya, Councilor David Ulivari Jr.
Here.
Ulivari Jr.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a quorum.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to just recognize all the people that I'm so happy to have back at work, the city of Las Vegas, and I'm very grateful that everybody came back to work, or just about. And I'm very grateful to the community for supporting us during this rough time. We had to close some of our services and everything, so we just appreciate the community for understanding and for our hardworking employees. I'd just like to recognize everybody for all their contributions to the city, and I'm very appreciative of all our employees. Amen.
Mayor, next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Mr. Ulivari?
Approval of the agenda.
We have a motion by Mr. Ulivari.
Mr. Mayor, I have a change if possible. We can move item number 6 to item number 1. Our guest
What's
is
the purpose?
from Santa Fe, that way he can leave early, back home.
So there's, we'll have to do another motion, I guess.
It's a resolution, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry?
Item 6 is a resolution.
I understand. But we had a motion on the floor. Did you want to do that, Mr. Ulivari?
That's fine.
Okay,
I'll second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
okay. Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Councilor Romero,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Montoya,
Yes.
Councilor Ulivari Jr.
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Ulivari Jr., a second by Councilor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Good.
Mr. Mayor, next item on the agenda is mayor's appointments or reports.
I was waiting for some students from New Mexico Highlands to present a proclamation. They're not here, but I'd like to still do that if they show up, so if you don't mind.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the proclamation is 2 items down.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So this is for your report.
Okay. Thank you. I'd just like to announce the creation of a large volunteer group and a community service group in the city, and we'll be signing the memorandum of understanding with New Mexico Highlands University, Luna, the West Las Vegas schools and the East and the Las Vegas City schools to enter into an agreement for setting up a volunteer and community service project. That's going to take place on Friday. We initially were going to do the signing today, but the weather had other plans for us. So I'm really excited about this. This is one of the largest efforts in Las Vegas ever to bring all these entities together, and I'm really just excited about that. And then I have a guest over there that I'd like to introduce you to. So everybody, this is Leonard. Hi, Leonard. Hi, Leonard. Hello, sweet boy. He's the most handsome dog you got. He's so cute. He's about 2 years old. He's a pit bull mix. Pit bull mix. He's very gentle and loving and very kind. And he would make a big pet for me or for anybody else in the room. Any takers? Scott, you have a dog?
I have 3 kids, Mayor.
That's enough, huh? And I'd also like to say that the animal shelter always needs help. So so dropping off straw, blankets, especially this time of year, food. What else do you accept?
Bleach, we go through bleach like crazy.
Bleach,
Dog food, kitten food.
dog food, kitten food, so if anybody feels generous, please stop by the Animal Welfare Coalition, the new, I hate to call it the pound, but they'll be glad to accept your donations, and I'm gonna really think twice about Leonard.
He's a very handsome boy.
You wanna go on? Oh my God, he's so cute. Thank you so much, and thanks for all the work that you all do. I appreciate it. Bye, Lenny. Uh-oh. I think that might be the one. Next order of business?
Next order is councilors' reports, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Mr. Montoya.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I just wanted to bring everybody up to date. I spoke with NMDOT, Chairman Walter Adams, and they put out for an RFP, the new signage on North Grand Avenue, which will be located on North and Grand. And the Franklin Construction Company was awarded that bid, and hopefully it will be installed before November. There's a little bit of a setback on that because of the rebar. It wasn't to specs, the coating on it, so a little bit of a setback, but they did find $30,000 to install this sign, and this one will say, welcome to Las Vegas. The one on South Grand didn't say welcome to, but this one will say welcome to. And this should, they're going to be installing the electricity and the lighting at a later time in-house. Okay? And then at that point, they'll get together with the city of Las Vegas to define the maintenance of it afterwards and stuff like that. And I want to thank the New Mexico DOT for always assisting the city of Las Vegas. The other item, Mr. Mayor, is I had met with the Gallinas Alliance, River Alliance, and the city manager and myself. Well, let me back up a little bit. During my tour at the Riverwalk, I identified a piece of property that's a triangle that was a little bit of a awkward-looking kind of place next to the Gallinas River. And after reviewing and searching it, it belongs to PNM. And I thought that would be a nice piece of property to join in the Gallinas River. So I took it further, and our city manager and myself, we called a PNM spokesperson for the northern part of the state, and her name is Jamie Aranda. Yes, and she inquired about see if we could obtain that piece of property for the city for future use for the water walk alliance projects that are coming through there. We've already supported it, the city, and we've supported them with lodger's tax for $20,000 for benches and so forth. They have a contract that's going on involving the whole community to take part as to what's going to happen there for the youth and the elderly and so forth. But either way, we met with Ms. Aranda, and she got back to us with good news. PNM is willing to go ahead and talk about maybe an exchange of properties. And we've identified maybe one at the industrial park that we can swap for them. This would be, right now they're storing electrical poles, the big poles, and some stools of wiring and so forth. And this is behind the trolley building at New Mexico Highlands University. And this would be a nice place to join in Highlands as well with the river walk. So I think that this is a plus win situation for the whole community. And I'm going to be asking if there's no objections, if I can go ahead and proceed with PNM on making some kind of an exchange on properties. And that item, if you guys give me your blessings, we'll bring it back to Mayor and Council when it's time to do the legal part of it. And of course, our attorney and our city manager will be involved in this exchange. But in the long term, I think it's been benefiting the Gallinas Water Alliance and the city of Las Vegas and its entire community.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking that up, Mr. Montoya.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hunter?
I have a letter of support that was sent to me through public input, and I think it would be appropriate at this time to read it. It's from the Hermit's Peak Watershed Alliance, the project that Councilman Foy is speaking of.
Sure.
Madam City Clerk, I'm writing on behalf of the Gallinas River Park Collaborative for contribution to public comments to Mayor and Council during tonight's City Council meeting. The Gallinas River Park Collaborative strongly supports the efforts of the City of Las Vegas to acquire the P&M property adjacent to the Gallinas River Park near the trolley building at NMHU. Shovel-ready design drawings are currently underway for the first phase between Mills Avenue and Independence Street of revitalization of the River Park. Councilman Montoya is a member of the steering committee that is acting to uphold community input in the design process. Prospects for integration of the P&M property have been discussed during steering committee meetings. This small property has huge potential to further enhance the river park and better incorporate the park with its surroundings. The space could provide a unique link between the Riverwalk and NMHU with exciting potential for a meaningful community gathering space, possibly including an outdoor sculpture garden and a location for equipment rentals for activities in the river park. Many thanks for your time and attention. With warm regards, Elizabeth Waddles, Education Director with Hermit's Peak Watershed Alliance. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Beautiful.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just to let Mayor and Council know and the public, these are individuals. There's about 30 individuals in that organization. As a matter of fact, our city manager is part of it, and Bill is also part of it in behalf of the city. But there's been a lot of planning going on, and this is something that's been wanting to get done for the last 10 years, and this administration is moving along. They've already acquired 200 and some thousand from the legislature last year, plus our 20,000 from the lodgers tax, and people are buying into it, and people are getting their input in as to what they want to see that look like. So I think just if we can obtain this piece of property, it's not a big property. It's maybe a third of an acre, I don't know, maybe, if at least. But if we can obtain that, I mean, this will go towards the second phase of the River Walk project in itself. So if I have your consent, I will proceed with that.
Absolutely. You got mine. And, yeah, and I'd just like to commend PNM for coming to our community and wanting to pitch in. Ms. Aranda's been very helpful and very available to the city. And so I'd like to recognize her as well, and PNM for their willingness to help our community.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. They're an awesome group.
Yes.
And we also mentioned that you'll be doing some projects with this new organization downtown, painting bridges, murals, and so forth. So we requested also for some funding through grant, to PNM grants. So I don't know if has Jamie gotten a hold of the city at all?
Yes, they're meeting tomorrow with Loretta.
Okay, so, those are things that are coming together, and I think it's a bright future for Vegas in that
Absolutely.
sense. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. If you want to attend that meeting, I'll get you the time if you're available. But she will be here it's a Zoom meeting, I'm sorry, tomorrow, but I'll get you the information.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Romero?
if I can, I just want to thank the Public Works Department. There were some speed bumps that they installed in the Crestone area. The community up there is very happy, and a long time, wasn't a long, there's been a speed problem up there, and, with those speed bumps, it's alleviated it. It's been about a week and a half, and I'm very happy for that work. And thank you for all you've done up there, Danny, and you and your staff. And Mr. Mayor, I know, with your leadership, one of the things you wanted to address was public safety and littering and stuff like that. And I know in conversation with you, and I'll let the rest of the council know, is that you have let me, start the process into looking at meeting with Judge Trujillo as far as looking at the court costs and fees, and see if there's a way that we could maybe increase the court cost fees. That way we could dedicate some money towards public safety. It's something that, our court costs here at the City of Las Vegas are very low compared to other communities. There's a lot of research that needs to be done, but I think that it's very important that, we're looking into that and ways to help out our public safety and our police officers, giving them the equipment and the tools needed that we need to. And then also, I know, Mayor, you've also wanted to address the, a lot of the fines in the community. So I don't know, if you were gonna I know you had mentioned about putting a task force together, and I think that's very important. I'd like to offer my service, for that, and I don't know if another counselor or any community members that would like to, look into that. And I know we'd have to work with legal on that, to make sure that we're following all the legal guidelines. But thank you for, for everything that you've done, and those are things that, we need to move forward in. We can't continue with the, fines and permit fees. I mean, one of the lowest in the state.
Yes.
There are a lot of problems that we have, and we need to, start generating other revenue sources, because we can't continue to operate with, minimal fees here in our community. So I just wanted to let the council know where we were with that. Thank you, Mayor.
And I'd like to recognize our attorney working on a littering ordinance for Las Vegas, and that's going to be coming up. But I was telling them that I want the fine for littering in Las Vegas to be the largest fine in the whole state of New Mexico. And we need to send a message to our citizens, and we need to send a message to the state that it's time for all communities to take this very seriously. So when I talk about a steep fine, I'm talking $500 to $1,000 for littering. Illegal dumping stuff, all that stuff. We need to do this. I think it'll be good for the community. But I want Las Vegas to be known that as a place where we don't accept littering. Littering is not allowed, and that we are going to crack down on it. And so, thank you, Scott, for taking the time to work on that ordinance. And we'll be hearing more about that in the near future. Councilors?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Uluwari?
I just want to recognize Public Works too, all the striping around town, and code enforcement. We're getting some things done in code enforcement. Thank you for all the hard work they do. It's looking a little better. We're starting from the bottom and working up, so we still need a lot of things to get done, but little by little we could get people to think about what's going on around the town and our yards, around our wards and everything. They're really thinking about it, and I just want to thank him.
Thank you. And thank you for getting involved. I know you've been very active with it, identifying properties and trying to do, clean up your ward too. So I appreciate the time that you've taken and the lead, and Mr. Montoya and Mr. Romero, and I'm sure Elaine has some properties that she's going to be reporting to the city soon. And I'd like to welcome Elaine Rodriguez, our new city council person, to her first meeting.
Well, thank you, and
Yeah.
if I could just share a couple of things.
Sure.
It's been an interesting 3 weeks. I get a lot of calls, which is exciting and fascinating, and I just want to say thank you to the City of the Las Vegas Police Department, the non-emergency, and Helica in specific, who's a dispatcher, and I was able to call her in regards to a resident's concern, and she was very informative as far as what I could do, and it really made the residents feel very safe, and as though and the city was responding to their concern. So I do want to say thank you. I do get a lot of calls, and a lot of the calls have to do with weeds. So I'm sure we'll probably revisit that if you haven't already. I'm sure you probably have spoke a lot about weeds in the community and in the residencies, and So it's been very rewarding to know that you can call up someone at the city and they give you the information right away and are able to take care of an issue. So I very much appreciate the city.
That's good.
Workers.
It's good to know.
Thank
And
you.
you're also welcome to call the city manager at any time if someone reports a property, or if you want to report a property, the city manager would be glad to facilitate the communication with Bill and the code enforcement office. Yeah. Next item?
Mr. Mayor, next item on the agenda is mayor's recognitions, proclamations. We have a proclamation for Black Lives Matter.
Thank you. And it's going to get crowded in here, and we're going to try not to be, to try to space people out a little bit, but I've invited the students who put this together to come in and receive a proclamation, so please bear with us. They all have face masks. You have the first one right here. Right over there. So first person, yeah. You look beautiful. I've known Alyssa since the day she was born. Jeez, it's been a long time. So this proclamation, I'm going to try and read it. I did bring my glasses, so excuse my reading. Huh? Yeah, do you want to read it?
Certainly.
You do? Okay. Do you want to step up to the...
Whereas the City of Las Vegas acknowledges and deplores the history of systemic racism in the United States, and whereas the City of Las Vegas strongly condemns all racist acts of police violence and extends our deepest condolences to the families and friends of George Floyd and the other victims of racially biased police violence, and whereas the City of Las Vegas strongly condemns racist acts of oppression in all forms, including institutionalized racism which has targeted Black and brown communities for far too long, and whereas the City of Las Vegas recognizes the importance of Juneteenth, June 19th is dating back to 1865, when Union soldiers landed in Texas with news that the Civil War had ended and that the enslaved were now free 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation became official, and whereas the City of Las Vegas respects the knowledge, experience, and traditions of all who live, work, study, or pray in our town or otherwise visit Las Vegas, and whereas the City of Las Vegas knows that we must all commit to being human rights champions, fight racism, and stand up as allies, and whereas the City of Las Vegas supports the work of our police department, our city government, and our schools to make them more diverse, equitable, and inclusive, and whereas New Mexico Highlands University students Cameron Browning, Alyssa L. Darley, Akira Martinez-Cook, Julius McCade, Isaac J. Garcia, and Jordan Coder organized and led a Black Lives Matter march on August 31st, 2020, from the Sanchez Family Stadium to the Plaza Park, including approximately 100 participants. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Louis A. Trujillo, Mayor of the City of Las Vegas, along with the members of the governing body, do hereby proclaim August 31st, 2020 as Black Lives Matter Day in Las Vegas, and that all residents are encouraged to pay fitting observance thereof. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I invited the chief to help me present this because, and you probably know a few of these.
Of course, it make me proud.
Yeah.
Julius, and he has a very interesting, his dad and his brother are in law school, and he's headed to law school.
Wow.
And Jordan, I didn't realize how tall you were, because we're on Zoom, so I never, everybody's sitting down. So yes.
They're students of yours at the university? Yeah. So again, I can't say how proud I am of you guys and what you did for the community and how respectful you were. and how you told everybody there that they had to behave and act right and be right, and it was a silent protest, and the manners that people showed me that night, you know, calling me yes sir, no sir, answering, I was completely amazed at the group, and I know you worked very hard for this, and I just want to invite you to maybe say a few words if you want to, Cameron.
Well, again, I would just like to say thank you. Without you guys' support, we wouldn't have been able to do it. We might have been able to do something small, but nothing compared to what we did actually do. So I do thank you for your support. And I'd just like to say it is truly an honor, and I feel like I'm speaking for all of us, that we are getting this kind of recognition, that you are, you know, proclaiming that day, Black Lives Matter Day. It really does mean a lot to us. So yeah, just thank you. I really do appreciate it.
And I'm very sincere in saying that you live here. You're one of our community. And so, you know, I'm just excited and so proud. Would you like to say something, Elisa?
Yes, it meant so much to me to pull off something so much bigger than all of us in this room, especially because I did come from a mixed background. I know my dad and know my mom, and so Las Vegas has always been my home. I was born and raised here, so to do something this spectacular and use my name as a Highlands student athlete to just do something, like I said, much bigger than us means the world to me. So thank you all. Thank you for your
Sure. Anybody else?
I'm just super honored, super proud of everyone here. You know, we accomplished something big in this town, but little to the impact there. We're going to keep the ball rolling, keep making improvements. So thank you very much for your support.
Anybody else?
I really don't have much to say that hasn't already been said. I'm extremely proud of this town and my peers who I stand here alongside. I think this was a breathtaking moment and a life-changing one without that. However, I do have the video.
I saw it. The YouTube video.
Yes.
Cameron sent it to me a while ago. Oh my God, it was so moving. So if you have a chance to look at it, it's called New Mexico Highlands University Black Lives Matter on YouTube. And it's a beautiful, beautiful video, well done, extremely well done. Congratulations. Chief, would you present this to the other gentleman?
Cameron Brown.
I used to work at Highlands, so thank you. I know all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Cameron. Thank you. All right. I appreciate you being here, and you're welcome in Las Vegas. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, we're gonna take that?
Thank you.
All righty. We'll see you, everybody. Thank you.
Sign.
Thank you so much.
Next order of business.
Next order of business is public input. Mr. Mayor, I have no public input at this point.
Very well.
So the next item is presentations, not to exceed 10 to 15 minutes per person. Our first presentation is by Bill Hendrickson, our Community Development Director, providing information on the CARES Act Small Business Grant.
Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, I'm sure as everybody knows, we applied for the CARES Act money, and we're going to receive, hopefully, $324,000 approximately to distribute to our local businesses. We haven't officially got the sign off on it yet. We're expecting it maybe later this week or next week. And then we can move forward with this. So right now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I've learned on this grant. It's a little loosey. We have some details, and I'm going to go through with how we expect this to work out with our community. Okay, so we
DFA has provided us a sample application, and it's really a two-step process. The businesses will apply, and by answering certain questions on the application, we then take those answers and we score them. And part of the scoring process, we're going to form a team from the community, about maybe 4 or 5 additional folks, to help do this. I haven't quite figured out how we do this, whether we get business people, and if they're going to apply too, that may be problematic. So we'll figure out to have some way to do this next week and get that accomplished. So the team will score the businesses, and then we'll also look at it from a needs standpoint as well. So we do have all the scoring mechanisms to give us some guidance. In addition to that, we are to build the application that the DFA gave us to also provide additional information. So there's 2 aspects to the business grant. One of them is called the continuity grant, and that's basic business expenses, rent, employment, employees, mortgages, and things like that. And then the other part of the grant is called the design grant, and that is things like putting up plexiglass. I believe we'll be able to cover the tents that the businesses are using, anything that they've had to do to modify their business for COVID is pretty much what comes down. So that's pretty much a non-business expense, I guess you want to call that. It's going to be like physical expenses. We expect that once we get turned on and we get our process all figured out, we will get the word out into the community, and we'll give the businesses either 2 or 3 weeks to apply. And as I mentioned, the first part of it is filling out the application. And what we will do from the application is we will pick the businesses that are eligible, and then we will respond to them depending on what their expenses that they're going to look to cover. Then they have to provide some documentation back to us on that. So it's really a 2-step process in order to do this. So it will take, several folks to look. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of applications. We're already getting calls. So I'm going to be prepared that we're going to be spending quite a few days going through all these and matching them up. Once that's done, and we verify what costs are going to be involved, we'll probably have to make a determination, because we possibly could get more requests than we have money, and so we'll probably have to make some accommodations in some fashion on that we can at least meet a lot of needs in the community.
Can you
Yes.
clarify the amount again that we got?
$324,000.
Okay.
So we have 700 and some businesses, so if everybody applied, it's like $65 each. So obviously, I wouldn't expect everybody to apply. The eligibility, you have to have less than 50 employees. You have to make, your revenue has to be less than $2 million. So that still covers a lot of businesses in town. And also, there's also, what was your impact on COVID? So there has to be an impact. So the biggest thing is going to be, the documentation. We're going to be responsible to make sure we get the receipts, because we're going to allocate the monies, and then we have to get reimbursed. And part of the reimbursement is submitting all the receipts and invoices and everything that the business has supplied to us. So we definitely have to have our due diligence on the documentation, because we want to get reimbursed. That's pretty much it. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Go ahead, Elaine.
Is there a maximum amount that you're going to place on it, or are you just going to wait to the grant?
We're just going to wait and see. Yes.
Mr. Romero?
And I had that same question. Is I kind of think I'd prefer that we kind of do put a cap, just because, let's say a bigger company puts in, of course they're going to have, we don't want to just give them one big bulk amount when, there's, plenty of other businesses that do have that need.
Sure.
And, if we give, a good portion to one business, especially if they've, and this is kind of the way, I think they mentioned it, that the North Central, because they have a loan program also where, you give to one business, but then by the time, those that's, there's going to be those smaller businesses that need some type of help, but there's not enough money for it. So, I think some type of cap would be nice, just so, that money goes a lot further than just,
Well, I think the intent we're not gonna take each one as they come in and then respond to that one grant and then go on to the next one until we run out of money. I think my intention would be that we bring in all the grants within the 2-week period of time, whatever the time period we have. We can mark them who came in first or whatever, but we look at them all as a whole rather than each individual one, because as you said, there may not be enough money to go around. And so part of the information we'll be putting out is that because there's not enough money, you may not get 100% of your ask, basically. And so we'll have to look at that and make those judgment calls on the businesses.
Can we put in language to where, maybe there's a priority for the smaller businesses that didn't qualify for the other grants that were available?
Yes, and that's all in the application, so part of the questions are, what is the size of your business? And so those things are taken into account and then, of course, if you have not used the PPP money or got any of the other loans, then, you have a higher priority than if you did get all these monies that helped you. So, and I've already talked to a few people that have, and I explained that to them. And then, but it's still all part of the new process to do that. So there's a lot of give and take there, I believe. But that's why I want to, Dr. Taylor suggested we bring people in from the community to do this. So it doesn't look like it's just the city making these Solomon-type decisions. And we'll get people from the community to help do this.
Mr. Richard, when's the deadline for this?
So, the deadline for submission will probably be as soon as we get the turn on and we get everything, all our documentation ducks in a row, we'll probably put out the notice and give everybody two weeks or so to do the first, what I'm calling the first round application. If we don't run out of money on the first round, then obviously we can do more after that. But I figure that 2 weeks would be enough to get your initial application in, and then we have to go back to them and get a request to those people that we select. Then we'll have to get more information, because if they bought tents, they're going to have to give us invoices and so forth, and we can't really ask for that up front because that's a lot of work for a business to do, and they may or may not, qualify. So,
Do you foresee a second round?
I'd be very surprised if we have enough money to go to a second round. I really think we'll probably I hope we get inundated with asks. I really do. So, you never know, but I'm suspecting that we'll probably get a lot of requests.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Olivari?
Bill, is there a committee that's going to handle the way you're going to distribute the money to the businesses, or it's going to be you and the city manager, or?
No, I said we'd try to get a committee of about 4 or 5 people, other than myself, to do it, and I'd just as soon have, if they know what the rules are, for them to make the determinations rather than myself, but I'll be there for guidance, and give out as much information that I've learned through DFA on this.
Is there any way that, Mr. Mayor, that one of the council members could be
Sure.
in that committee?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why you couldn't.
I would like to be in that committee. If you just give me the schedule, and I would like to see which businesses or who's coming in to get part of that money, and so if you could give me that information and get them set up for that.
Well, we'll give out information to, all the main organizations that have like big email lists and stuff. We'll put it on the website. We'll get on the radio and get the word out that way as well, is, try to get that dispersed out into the community, the business community,
I'm
as
pretty
quick
sure
as
you're gonna meet-
possible.
You're gonna have meetings on that, aren't you?
I'm sorry?
You're gonna meet with the people, or you're gonna have a meeting with them, whoever's applying for that?
For the people that are applying,
Yes, sir.
if they have questions, we certainly will meet with them and help them out on the application. The application is pretty straightforward. It's pretty much yeses and nos, and how many employees you had at this particular date, and what was your income at this particular date and time, like pre-COVID and post-COVID, what is it today? Some things like that are part of the application. And that's part of the determination also in the scoring on for each individual. So we have a spreadsheet that DFA provided that we can take their applications and then score it. And if people need help filling it out, we certainly help.
Thank you.
Would you be willing to take names from the council?
Sure.
For people to put
Sure.
on your team?
I was going to just try to send out an email, but again, I started thinking about, I better just wait a little bit and just start talking to everybody and see how we want to, reach out into the community.
And then if I could just throw this out there, is a kind of, whatever committee members are put on, just kind of make sure there's not some type of conflict that can later come back and,
Yeah, that's why I was concerned, because obviously, if you're from the business community, obviously you can't be applying and be on the
Yeah,
committee,
right.
obviously, so that makes sense. And that makes it a little bit difficult, because a lot of the organizations that we tap into are business organizations, so.
And I think, I know Dr. Rodriguez probably, has contacts at Highlands that might be neutral, that would have that kind of
Sure.
expertise, Dr. Taylor. I think we have those individuals in the community that aren't tied to a business one way or
Sure.
another, that I think we
And
need to be
let me
very
just
neutral.
offer right now, if council would like to submit me some names, just go ahead and email them to me, and we'll just take it from there. And I would just, I may need more than 5 people if we get a lot of businesses. There's going to be a lot of application reviews, so I would appreciate that. So I think that's a good idea.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. I
Okay, you're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is a presentation by Jesus Baquera, our Finance Director, providing information on the CARES Act local government grant.
Welcome, Jesus. Mayor, council, welcome.
Thank you. I'm here to inform you that the city got awarded a CARES Act grant in the point of $2.4 million. We will be, first of all, reimbursing ourselves for expenditures that we've already incurred. And any leftover monies, we will put on the table for non-reoccurring expenditures for our public safety, fire, and police. And it all has to be related to the COVID public health emergency.
Perfect. Well, thank you. When do you think the accounting will be done for all this?
DFA has sent us emails saying they are training their people this week. So I'm thinking starting next week, they will come out and train us, and then we can start reimbursing ourselves, preparing all the paperwork and do all the accounting. So I would give it a week, maybe 2 at the most.
Perfect.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Romero?
Do we kind of have a general figure as to what we've, to this point, kind of spent on COVID-related?
Estimates, we applied for 4.6 million.
That we've already spent? That we've been
That was
incurred?
estimated expenditures. It goes from March through December. So that's what we were expecting to spend during that time frame. So we'll have to pare it back down to 2.4. I'm hoping we have a little bit something for fire and police, but we're going to cover the salaries first
Salaries,
from the fire and the police.
Mr. Mayor, Dr. Taylor was...
Mr. Taylor?
So the way the CARES, the grant worked was they required us to put in a request for a certain amount of money. And they allowed certain kinds of expenses, and I think that's what Jesus is getting at. One of the things that they said in their report to us was that any expenditure on salaries for police, fire, and other emergency people was eligible for reimbursement. And that could happen between March, what we spent between March 1st and what we intend to spend through December. So basically, we put in for our entire police department budget for those months. And so all of those things, per the circular that we got from the U.S. Treasury, are eligible for reimbursement. And we got 47% of what we asked for. And so, I think that's probably just arbitrary. They had so much money to give, and so that's what we got. And so we can use that to cover those expenses. Right now, we're going to get a lump sum of money. As Jesus said, we'll get direction from DFA on how we can use it. Then my thinking is that for the most part, we're going to say we're going to keep it in reserves until we go and we do our mid-year budget review that we promised that we would do later on. We'll say, well, it looks like we actually are really short on revenues, or we're not. And then we can say, based on where we are and where we think we'll be at that point in time, make some determinations on how we could use that money. But it's going to be a process because, and we'll need that time to see where we actually end up.
Mr. Mayor?
So kind of, I know you had mentioned in conversation when I met with you yesterday, you had mentioned about employees, working from home, and the need for maybe laptops, software programs, stuff like that. So what you're saying is the 2.4 will be put away until, and then if, depending on what stuff is needed, what computer systems, whatever is needed to have these employees work from home. And then at that point, say we've already expended, let's say, $2 million, we have 400,000, is that kind of what you're saying? Is wait till?
Yes, and I think what I'm really saying is we're going to proceed with some, kind of obvious small things. So if we need to go out and buy 10 laptop computers and that costs us, $1,500 a piece, that's, $15,000, that's a small part of 2.4 million. We can make those kind of expenditures right away and take care of immediate needs. But when it comes to bigger requests, we'll probably wait to see what we actually have left over in December. And again, we're going to wait for guidance from DFA. They're going to be providing that to us soon. And I think in both this case and in the case that Bill talked about, they're going to be providing some training. And we're going to, we're not going to reinvent the wheel. We'll listen to them. We'll also see what other places have done. So the city of Albuquerque's already had given us a head start on the assistance to businesses, and they did put a cap on it. That we can look at the kinds of things that they did, and as we prepare the ground for our making decisions.
Mr. Matoya?
Mr. Mayor, this is a very happy moment. It's not every day that we get $2.4 million, and I want to thank staff for applying for this funding. Some communities, I believe, they didn't apply for that money, and they're going to be hurting. And like Mr. Taylor says, after our 6-month review on our standings, because we still don't know what the gross receipt tax is going to do to us next year. So that's very smart of our administration and our staff to hold off on a lot of the spending and getting direction from other communities that are doing the same thing, and also from DFA. But I want to really commend them for applying for this. And, you know, the police department took a big hit. So does all our emergency staff did here at the city. There for a while, you know, you installed the curfew at night, and we were having issues and stuff like that, and were all serious matters. And I'm glad that finally our country is giving us a little bit back for our sacrifices. You know, we did go into our homes and confine ourselves from the public there for a time period, and we're still doing it. Some people are still staying away. It's a lot of sacrifice for this money that has been done. But I'm sure that Mayor and Council will spend it wisely and spend it where it needs to be spent. And I just really want to thank staff for not falling asleep on this one and making sure that we got our share of it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Montoya.
Mr. Mayor, one more.
Mr. Mayor?
You said that by this week we might hear more from DFA. If we can, Mr. Mayor, if we know a little bit more by next meeting, can we get maybe a small update with this?
I'll make sure to update you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Vaquera. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Cassandra?
Mr. Mayor, next item is business items, and we have our number 6 is going to be our first item, and that is approval, disapproval of resolution number 20-53. And we have Councilor Montoya, who wanted this on our agenda, and he has a guest here that's going to be speaking, Mr. Mahesh Sita. I hope I said that right, correctly.
Honorable Mayor, City Council.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. My name is Mahesh Sita. I'm with the American Heart Association, and I'm here today to talk to you about, tobacco preemption that exists in today's laws that restrict cities such as Las Vegas from enacting more stricter tobacco sales regulation to restrict, being provided to, sold to kids, especially the e-cigarette epidemic. So, just brief history. In 2015, the tobacco industry lobbied and successfully, instituted a tobacco preemption clause in the Tobacco Control Act. And it was not a coincidence they did that in 2015, because 2015 was a time when, e-cigarette use was getting popular with the kids. And Juul, the big company, was marketing aggressively to the kids. And so they didn't want, local communities to have any control over the sales of those products. And, that was introduced and became the law. And last legislative session in 2020, the 30-day session, we worked with the governor, and she introduced a comprehensive tobacco legislation that was Senate Bill 131 that required, for the first time in our state, to have all tobacco retailers, distributors, and manufacturers, including e-cigarette stores, to be licensed. And also, we raised the age of buying tobacco products to 21. That's keeping in compliance with the federal law. And we also had a provision in that to repeal the preemption, so cities and counties can implement stricter ordinances to regulate the sales of tobacco and e-cigarette, products within their community. As you know, the tobacco industry is pretty strong. They have billions of dollars to spend, and with the leadership we had in the past, we were not able to repeal that preemption, which was they put it back. So we are trying to do this repeal again in the coming 2021 session, with the help of the governor and hopefully with a new leadership in the Senate. And one of the benefits of repealing the preemption It's very similar to what you have with the alcohol sales. If Las Vegas wants to go dry, they can do it. They have that option. For example, Quay County and Roosevelt County, I think, they were dry counties for several years. It was only a couple of years ago, Quay County said, like, okay, we will finally sell alcohol in our community. So it was very similar to that. We had tobacco, but 2015 changed that because of the e-cigarette epidemic. And, in 2019, Department of Health, they surveyed 7,600 high school kids in New Mexico. And one of the questions they asked, like, have you smoked e-cigarettes in the last 30 days at least one time? 34% of the high school kids said, yes, we did. And that number went up from 2017. 2017, they do this survey every 2 years. And the 2017 survey showed 24% of the high school kids were smoking. Within a matter of 2 years, that percentage went to 34%. So, it is an epidemic throughout the country. And with the COVID-19, nicotine is known to cause, there's a lot of research that showed, it causes heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, and other related illnesses. And COVID-19 has really exposed, these pre-existing conditions where people are, in high numbers are getting, infected and dying. And, most of the people who are dying have pre-existing conditions. And smoking, leads to those illnesses. And, the tobacco industry has, with the e-cigarette epidemic, has created a new generation of nicotine addicts. And down the line, they will have, heart conditions, diabetes, and other health consequences. And, it took us 50 years in New Mexico to bring down the youth cigarette smoking, the traditional smoking rates to 9.5%. And within a matter of 4 years, the e-cigarette epidemic among the youth, went from like under 10% to 34%, and it's still rising. So at least, it's a legal product now. We can't, totally eliminate it, but at least we want to control and bring down those rates so our kids are not addicted to e-cigarettes. And another scientific fact is e-cigarettes contain 5%, more nicotine levels than your traditional cigarettes, and they are more addictive. And kids who, start e-cigarettes, they have a hard time, quitting. So we are trying to, give local control. If the legislature repeals the preemption, you as a city council and the mayor can adopt ordinances where you can say, we will not, sell any flavored tobacco products in our community, which is like menthol, mint, watermelon. So these are the popular things with the kids. You could say, we're not going to sell flavored, tobacco products in our community. You can also say, we will limit the density of these stores in our low-income communities. And then we will restrict them from being close to the schools or community parks or ballparks where, young kids hang out. Currently, the law which is going to affect in January 2021, it says you can't have a smoke or a tobacco store within 300 feet of a school. 300 feet is like 100 yards. It's not very much. And it says only school. It doesn't say anything about a skateboard park, a public park, baseball fields, or community centers where kids hang out. So you could change that with the local ordinance if we repeal that. And then you can also have, restrict point of sale advertising. where they have these big signs says like, 50% off, buy one, get one free, but, fancy neon signs to attract kids. You can restrict all those. But right now, with the state law the way it is, it doesn't give local, cities and counties to have more stricter regulations, controlling, the sales of tobacco products. And
So what will this resolution do if it's
This
passed?
resolution will go before, if it gets enough support throughout New Mexico, through almost municipalities, it will go through the legislative session this coming year again. And if it does, the legislative now, with the new members that are there, they're younger, they're thinking a lot healthier wise, a lot for New Mexico because of insurance costs have been rising and so forth. But if we approve this tonight, this resolution, it's just giving them more power for the cities, municipalities. If it passes Santa Fe, then we have more control as to where we want businesses to sell cigarettes or pipes or tobacco or whatever it is,
That's
smoking
why,
products.
Mayor Trillo and the council, I think, it's not just the American Heart Association, it's the American Cancer Society, American Lung Association, New Mexico Chronic Disease Prevention Council. We are trying to get grassroots supports from the cities and counties. And the resolution basically, urges, the legislature to repeal, the existing preemption and give the cities and counties, authority to, to regulate if you want to. So, that's what we're trying to do, and, we're hoping, your voice will be heard in the legislature. And just for example, yesterday, the Las Cruces adopted the same resolution. Albuquerque Public Schools adopted last week, and Rio Arriba County also adopted last week. So we are going around the state, working with cities and counties to have them adopt and show the, the legislature, the communities want to change this law and then give them the authority to.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the resolution.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
If this passes and local governments get more autonomy over this, that would also allow local governments to place higher taxes on this particular product, and you could use that tax money for health?
The taxing,
Or no?
Mayor Trillo and Councilor, the taxing authority has always been with the state. But, that's something, I'm not a lawyer, but as a, if you want to, you could say, I think you charge a business fee, like business licenses. You could increase that business licenses for, tobacco stores or e-cigarette stores. And you can earmark that money for enforcement, prevention, education.
Thank you. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 20-53.
There's a motion on the floor. Second, please. Second by Mr. Romero. Roll call, please.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Iván Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, second by Counselor Romero. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Sita. I appreciate you being here with us.
Mayor Trillo and councilors, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sandra?
Mr. Mayor, next item is item number 1. Conduct a public hearing and disapproval to adopt ordinance number 20-07 to amend the code of the City of Las Vegas, Chapter 148, Section 5, subsection I, entitled Fees, and we have our City Attorney, Scott Aaron.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to enter a public hearing.
There's a motion to enter into public hearing. Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya stepped out. I have a motion by Counselor Romero, second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Aaron, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilors?
Mr. Mayor, if I may swear.
Yes.
Stand and raise your right hand, repeat after me. I.
I, Scott
For
Aaron,
the record, do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to tell the truth
to tell the truth
during my testimony to council.
during my testimony to council tonight. Okay, Mayor and councilors, what I've got for your consideration this evening is an ordinance that would modify just the fees portion of our vacant building maintenance license. As the council's probably aware, some years ago, an ordinance was passed which creates an ordinance here in Las Vegas whereby individuals who have vacant buildings, they need to apply for a permit for those vacant buildings. The city would keep a registry of that, and it gives the city an ability to exercise code enforcement, fire prevention, police, that type of thing. It also helps us keep the quality of the vacant buildings up. It requires the building owners to provide a local contact person, so we know who we're dealing with, and if there's an issue, we can get to the owners quickly. If there's vandalism, if there's a fire, if there's weeds. And what this does is the goal of this ordinance is basically to update the fees portion, because many years ago when this ordinance was originally passed, the fees were considerably lower. And what we've done in this ordinance here is just update the fees to mirror what Tucumcari had done. There was a white paper that came out in April of 2019 that was done by someone up here in Santa Fe regarding vacant building ordinances, and it compared some of the municipalities. And the ones up in our area, we were considerably lower, especially from Tucumcari. Tucumcari's kind of been the torchbearer for setting up their program and enforcing it. And so what we have done is we have basically, for commercial business or industrial properties, our fee amounts match what Tucumcari's done. And for our anything that's not commercial business or industrial, which would be residential, agricultural, our fees are similar to what theirs are, but we've got a progressive structure built in. Ours is a little bit different. But we basically just want to update the fees because, as you guys know, we recently brought on a new code enforcement officer. We've really geared up. And the community will, I'm sure, in short notice, be hearing and seeing the results of what we're doing with code enforcement. But in order to do that, before we made a big push, we wanted to update all of our fees so that at least they were reflective of what some of the municipalities around us were doing.
Thank you. Discussion? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to exit the public hearing.
There's a motion to exit out of public hearing. Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr.
make a motion for approval to adopt ordinance number 20-07.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero. Second, please. Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. And just to reiterate, Scott, that also includes any residential, vacant residential property?
It does.
Okay,
It does.
all right.
Mr. Mayor, item number 2, conduct a public hearing and approval disapproval to adopt ordinance 20-11, an ordinance imposing gross vehicle weight limits on 6th Street, 8th Street, Mountain View Drive, and Legion Drive, and to repeal and replace ordinance 05-16. We have our Public Works Manager, Daniel Boulay.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to enter a public hearing.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Olivari Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. I guess you have to swear him in, huh?
Bob, if you'll...
I affirm under penalty of perjury
I affirm under penalty of perjury
that I'll tell the truth,
that I'll tell the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth,
and nothing but the truth.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome, Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, I'm here to, let's see how we do this. I'm here to see if we could get ordinance 2011 adopted into our ordinance and repeal and replace ordinance 516 for the weight limit within 6th, 7th, 8th Street, Mountain View, and Legion Drive. We have a lot of issues with semis going through these roads and tearing up the roads. It'll help with the noise, with the kids playing and stuff, because these big trucks, the roads I don't think were actually made for this weight. And it does allow for city vehicles and any road construction or anything to use the road while it's there.
Okay.
I stand for any questions.
I just have one question, wouldn't it be easier to say, because we don't know how much a vehicle weighs, per se, or what they're carrying, wouldn't it have just been easier to say no trailers allowed?
Yeah, we could probably change the language, just to say maybe 18-wheelers or something like that.
Right.
Basically, a Class B is 28,000 pounds, which is a smaller dump truck and stuff like that. Usually the 18-wheelers and stuff are the way past the limit.
Because would it be a legal issue if the cops pulled somebody over and said, you know, you can't be here because your vehicle exceeds the weight, and we don't have a mechanism to weigh the vehicles? I know they're required, the truck drivers are required to have a manual to estimate the weight of the vehicle.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering if it would be easier just to say no 18-wheelers, period, or you know, dump trucks or...
Mr. Mayor, may I ask the chief to be here present at this?
Okay. Mr. Rodriguez, you had a question?
Yes, that was my concern also, because are you counting on community policing this enforced?
Well, right
to
now,
enforce this?
we were hoping that the PD would step in, but like I did talk to Chief, and Chief was saying that they don't have the proper equipment to go ahead and test the weight and stuff on these vehicles. So we would have to actually go through the New Mexico Department of, how do you call it? State Police.
Because I live on a road where the
Yeah.
big diesels go through, and I often wonder that, how do you know, how, do I take a picture and then send it to you so you know how to enforce the penalty on this certain company? I guess that's, how do you enforce this is, I guess, one of my questions. Because I don't assume you're going to have police driving around all the time and catching
No, they
people
are
who
supposed-
violate this.
If they would actually go through the road and they would see a truck going through there, then they would be able to pull them over. But I think basically we would have to change the language and say no 18-wheelers. 18-wheelers we know are over the weight limit going through there now.
Okay.
I mean, a smaller dump truck is, I think, the weight limit is around 28,000 pounds and stuff. It's Class B.
Because that was my question, how do you enforce this for companies that violate it?
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I just, one point, are you going to testify, Adrian? In reference to this ordinance? Are you going to speak about it?
The weight limit, as far as, well, we can't really...
You just have to be sworn in, so, sorry.
I affirm under penalty of perjury
I affirm under penalty of perjury
that I'll tell the truth,
that I'll tell the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
nothing but the truth,
nothing but the truth.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Mr. Ulibarri?
Mr. Mayor, Daniel, are you going to have any signs out there on the streets
Yeah, we will be
Even
putting
it's
out
not-
ordinance signs if it gets adopted and stuff like that, that'll actually hopefully help to have the vehicles that have overweight limits and they have to use the proper roads. But if they do kind of venture out into these roads, that's where the PD, which they don't have the equipment to actually enforce it right now, but hopefully it'll deter them.
I'm pretty sure that the PD is going to have some kind of a, maybe the commanders or officers are, say there's a vehicle that's overweight or over going through the streets, I'm pretty sure they're going to have some kind of a manual saying, the ordinance or whatever, they're going to cite.
So one of the problems with, when I was speaking with Daniel, is that we aren't able to enforce that regulation or that law. And it was always dependable on motor transport, which was state police. During, state police would have their motor transport units in town or on the highway. That's who enforced them prior. Now, I don't know if they still have their motor transportation department, the ones that are on the border patrol and on the borders and things like that. I don't know if they still have that. I have to check with the state police, but I know that state police can enforce that. We would have to send an officer or two officers to training so they could learn how to, examine semis and examine the vehicles to say, yes, you have, this is your weight limit, this is your tickets, your trip tickets. You've been running more than 8 hours a day or whatever it calls for on what the trip ticket calls for.
Usually all the overweight vehicles have their, on the goals, on the tags, they tell how much goals they have and whatever, once they can carry. So what I'm looking at is, how are you gonna control that? How if there's vehicles on 8th or 6th Street or even on you drive, you got your officer that's 14-ton trucks taking gravel to there or whatever, I don't know, you're gonna cite them or you're gonna take them to get weighed?
Well, I think that would be officer discretion on if we're gonna cite or are we gonna educate or what are we gonna do with what, what is our main goal here? Is it to cite, is it to educate, or is it to protect our citizens that we don't have these big vehicles going through these areas, these streets, and making that loud noises for them?
So my suggestion is, so we don't have a mechanism to weigh the vehicles, and neither do your officers. So my recommendation is just to outlaw any 18-wheelers, period. Anyone that we see, whether it weighs 2,800 or more or whatever, we just cite them. They're not supposed to be using those streets for that.
And I think we would have to make the ordinance also, but we'd also have to check with municipal court because we use, those types would go to magistrate court. And
why?
Well, that's what I'm saying, because we don't have an ordinance, a traffic ordinance for these type of vehicles.
Usually, Mayor, the driver has a control sheet that, how much weight he's carrying and what.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We probably have to send a few officers for that training or bring someone to train us on that to be able to enforce those traffic violations of being on that street. It would just hold more water in court.
But yeah, but I'm still stuck on, we don't have a mechanism to weigh.
Right.
So can't we just cite them for, if it's an 18-wheeler that's on that truck, no matter of the weight on the street?
Well, if they're carrying, it's going to be more. If they're not,
Well, I understand that,
I
but
don't know
I'm
what
just,
an 18-wheeler, what does an 18-wheeler weigh without anything being carried in it, so.
well, that's why I'm saying, you wouldn't allow 18-wheelers, whether they're empty or filled, period, on those streets.
Right.
As opposed to getting into this weight thing, or how much they're carrying, or if they haven't slept for 8 hours or whatever, it would be strictly a fine for them using those streets, period.
I would say semi-trucks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah. Mr. Montoya?
Yeah, I think basically an empty fire truck probably weigh about 26,000 pounds, which is amounts to what, ton or two, a ton. Semi-load, semi-truck 18-wheeler, another 86,000 pounds, 4 tons. But these people, when they're driving through there, I mean, I live in a residential area on Legion, and that road, if you go through there, is more like a waffle. Because back in 2006, Mr. Mayor, you were there, we passed an ordinance, and we passed the same thing we're passing here tonight, but it was for 17 tons at the time. And there's still signs out there say 17 tons. On 7th Street, we have another sign that says 17 tons right by Taco Bell. But the problem has been that our city police department cannot enforce or give out tickets because, as the chief indicated, they're not trained officers for that. And the New Mexico Transportation DOT, I think they demolished. So right now, any state police has that classification to stop any 18-wheeler and verify on a residential area what they're doing in that area. As far as having the mechanism to weigh a truck, there's a weigh station on Railroad Avenue at the salvage yard there. And we have one at the transfer station. You know, those things, I mean, if it gets to the point to where we have to weigh a truck, I mean, that's that. But normally, on their ticket, every driver should have what, if they're empty, if they're not empty, how much they're weighing, and so forth. I'll tell you, those trucks have destroyed those roads. Because
I'm not disagreeing that, what I'm saying is forget the weight. Forget about what it weighs. If the cops see a semi driving on those streets, they do have the right to give them a ticket.
They're not certified, not for a weight ticket.
No, well, I'm not talking, remove the weight.
Mr. Mayor?
Remove the weight out of this equation.
I don't think your ordinance covers for you to put a sign that says no 18-wheelers.
Yeah, no semis.
No 18-wheelers or no semis. Right. We don't have such an ordinance.
Well, that's what we're doing here. That's why I'm saying now's the chance to change this. Don't do anything with the weight. It's the type of vehicle that we don't want on the street, whether they're filled or empty.
I say we need to get more information from state police or DOT and how they enforce it, or how we would go better about doing this.
Well, if we're going to go with weight, we do.
Yeah.
If we're going to just go on the fact that I saw a Walmart semi go up 7th Street, they have every right to pull them over and give them a citation if this ordinance is passed, whether it's full or empty. It's an 18-wheeler.
I'd have to do more research on it. I think
that's what I'm saying.
Mr. Mayor, we would have to do more research just because of the fact that if we cite this semi and we go to court and then they say, well, you're not a certified officer to be able to be pulling over semis or those type of vehicles. So we need to really research.
But you are. I mean, if you as an officer see or witness an accident with a semi, you're not going to call state police. You guys are going to handle the accident.
Actually, we will call state police.
Why?
Because of the semi. The semi is, the 18-wheeler is, we are not trained as law enforcement in City of Las Vegas to be able to do an inspection on a vehicle like that. That's what I'm trying to say. We're not trained to do a vehicle inspection. Even when an accident occurs, we'll call state police to have them assist us with the inspection of the vehicle, because they just don't inspect the trip ticket, right? They inspect their lighting, their turn signals. They inspect the whole truck from the top to the bottom. What are they carrying? What are they not carrying? What are they authorized?
I'm just saying, if you see a semi, an 18-wheeler on 6th or 7th Street, you can pull them over and give them a ticket because they're not supposed to be there.
I guess my question would be is how are we gonna fix this ordinance to say that? Just say no semis allowed?
Right.
No semis allowed on
Right.
6th Street,
Right.
Mountain View?
Right. Whether they're full or empty, whether they weigh 2,800 pounds, take the weight out of it completely. If you see one going up 7th Street, your officers can pull them over and give them a citation because they're not supposed to be there. Period. You're not getting into weight, you're not getting into inspecting their manual, you're not getting into anything. They're just not supposed to be there and they get a ticket. You're not going to inspect the vehicle, you're not going to inspect their driving record and all that stuff. You're giving them a ticket because they're not supposed to be on these roads.
So really, Mary, what we're gonna have to do is really put signs up, because,
Yep, and work with the merchants, work with Walmart and Taco Bell and Domino's, and say, you can't use these streets anymore.
when you stop an 18-wheeler like that, one thing leads to another.
Well, you're stopping them because they're not supposed to be on that street, period. Now, if they open their window and they smell weed or whatever, or they're drinking or whatever, of course, then you take the natural progression. But you're just giving them a ticket because they're on those streets and they're not supposed to be there. If you take the weight out of it completely.
I understand that, man. Do we know how much that the court is gonna, what's the fine gonna be on that, or we just?
I think we're trying to adopt the $250 first time on that, and then the second time, I think we'll jump to $350.
Good.
And I think this is what our attorneys want.
Well, that's what they do in Santa Fe.
Yeah.
Those are the fees that they charge in Santa Fe. Mr. Romero?
Mr. Mayor, I agree with you on that part. I think, the vehicle weight, I think that's kind of it's going to be another red tape in the ordinances to, for them to be able to get off. I agree with, the 18-wheeler or slash, because right here, the way it currently reads is commercial and light-duty vehicles. So right now, even a light-duty, one-ton truck with a regular trailer basically violates that ordinance, which, in that point, then we are able, we are officers, but again, we fall into what exactly is the weight, how much weight do we have in that truck? So I just think that, the commercial vehicle slash 18-wheeler, we could change that language in here. I think that's pretty much.
That's it. We don't have to worry
Am I
about.
right? Can I ask, legal?
Yeah.
Am I right, Mr. Attorney? or-
I think what we probably need to do is take this and the suggestions that have been made, make some modifications to this, and bring it again to council, so you have an opportunity to review it in its final form, and that's probably going to be the best route.
So my next question, would we include the penalties in this ordinance, or would it be a separate ordinance for that, or? The fines and penalties?
No, because this specifically says that one of the things that's being done as part of this ordinance is the amending of the fee schedule. The city's penalty assessment program is going to be amended as part of this ordinance, so this would create the offense and assign a fine to it.
So I guess my next question would be, if we do make those amendments, we're gonna have to republish it and everything? Is that?
It's substantial enough. So we would have to do that.
Mr. Olivari, did you?
What I was thinking of about the ordinance is, what if if it's on 6th Street, 8th Street, Marmy Drive, say one of the residents order 14 tons of, what are you gonna do there?
Yeah.
Are you gonna stop him from taking the gravel over there, or or taking a truck to asphalt? I think that we're gonna have to take a look at this further down, further, because it's gonna be problems there.
There's nothing wrong with posting signs saying this is not a truck route. You cannot go through these streets. There's nothing wrong with that. It's when you start putting all this stuff that we can't control. We don't own the weigh station. They have no way to determine whether all they know is that it's an 18-wheeler. And so, that's a concern, if somebody orders furniture or whatever, or.
And it does allow for, for use when certain weight needs to go through the road, like construction and stuff like that. It does allow for that.
It does?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So in other words, there's that exemption where, let's say, police do pull them over, they have a semi-load and it's furniture and they're moving, and they're able to justify it, and.
Yeah, see, like Walmart, when when they're going up, say Legion, when they're going up towards Walmart, they're loaded.
And I think that's the biggest concern is the Walmart's,
Hacienda, I seen Hacienda the other day with a full load of plywood. That load alone with the trailer is just way too much for that road. That road is deteriorating pretty quick, So these are kind of like what we were trying to move forward to.
Well, I think maybe take our considerations, remove the stuff about the weight, just maybe the fact that there's an 18-wheeler, period. Unless there's justification for them to be in a neighborhood like Mr. Ulibarri says, then, you know, those are the exceptions. But all the other commercial vehicles, they should be cited for not, for using those streets.
And we do have a problem at Mount View Drive, Toyotas, and there's a lot of, breaks that go through there, just to cut through there instead of going through.
Mills.
Yeah, Mills and up 8th Street, So that's where you're getting a lot of, the roads are bad and,
And I know Legion is deteriorating pretty fast. I mean,
yeah,
that's one of our worst.
Well, it's a shortcut for everything. But the thing is that, I would recommend that we give it to the city attorney and see what it costs for us, or what it takes for us to send, let's say, an officer per shift for training for this, for one, and check with the New Mexico State Police, see why they're not enforcing, or if, what the verbiage has to be towards the law in order to be able to give a fine or a ticket. Do we have to go by 18-wheeler, or by big trucks, or by tons, or what it is? Because if we pass this and there's no stick to it, the way it's been for the last 20 years, well, we're just defeating the purpose all over again.
Well, if we don't have a way to weigh the vehicles, we need to remove weight, period. It's those large vehicles that are doing damage on those streets and that are making noise at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I make a motion to exit public hearing.
there's a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero. I'll entertain a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Romero.
I make a motion to table ordinance 20-11 and give direction to legal to address the concerns that we had towards the weight limit and versus 18-wheeler in the language.
Very well.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
I'd like to
Mayor.
thank Scott and Cassandra, they've helped me a lot with this.
Thank you. And please thank your staff. You guys are doing an excellent job.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, next item on the agenda is business item 3, conduct a public hearing and approval disapproval to adopt ordinance number 20-10 to rezone property located at 45A Mountain View Drive in Las Vegas, New Mexico from a general commercial zone to an R1, which is a single-family residential zone. We
Mr.
have
Mayor?
Maria Correa, planning and zoning coordinator.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to enter public hearing.
There's a motion to enter public hearing.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
The motion by Counselor Romero, second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Cassandra.
I affirm under penalty of perjury
I affirm under penalty of perjury
that I will tell the truth,
that I will tell the
the
truth,
whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth,
and nothing but the truth.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome. Maria, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.
Okay, good evening, councilors, Mr. Mayor. I am doing a request for Mr. Richard Peak, who's not here today, because he wants to rezone property located at 45A Mountain View Drive from a general commercial zone to an R1 single-family residence, so he can convert part of that building to a single-family home.
Part of what building?
That building at 45A.
Do you know what the building is called? Was it a business before?
It was originally a residential garage. The owner prior to Mrs., and then Mr. Gallegos had built a garage. It was an R3 at that time. And then the lady from Super 8 Motel, Mrs. Shirley Coe, purchased the property, insulated it and did a bunch of stuff inside, did a couple of offices and 2 bathrooms, and used it as like an event center for the Super 8 Motel. And so she did a lot of conversion, she did a lot of updating, and that's when she changed it to commercial. And when she sold all the properties here, that was one of the properties she sold. And this gentleman from Las Cruces, Mr. Richard Peak, who loves Las Vegas, by the way, purchased it, and he thought it would make an excellent residential home inside the building, because a lot of it is already like insulated and everything else, just has to do partitions, and then use part of it as, he likes to do woodwork, stuff like that, and he was going to use part of that as a garage for his cars and do some of his woodwork and all that stuff.
Discussion, please? No? No questions? I'll entertain a motion to go back into regular session.
Mr. Mayor, we can have approval of the record proper prior to that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I had a question, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
This is the same property in question about the alleyway that was investigated last month?
Yeah.
And the results were that city staff and the county, at the end of the day, decided that there was no easement through there, right?
That's what, and if you look at the, I'm not sure what, I put in all the reports from the fire department, what they found out, what Mr. Deputy Chief Span, I put in a copy of his report.
And he's not here today, I understand that, but is he gonna be selling woodwork furniture out of there, or?
No, it's just for
his own personal purpose?
Just for him, he just does it, yes, he just likes to do carvings that he sells. I'm not sure if he sells them at the flea market, but he likes to do carving, just stuff like that, for his own personal use, as far as I know.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to introduce the record proper.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
We got a motion by Mr. Montoya, second by Mr. Ulibarri.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, a second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to lead public input.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to lead public input.
Motion by
Public
Mr.
hearing?
Romero.
Close public hearing?
Public hearing, yes.
Public hearing, I'm sorry. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Cassandra. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Ulibarri?
to approve, adopt ordinance 20-10, rezoning property located at 45 Monterey Drive, Las Vegas, New Mexico, from C3 General Commercial Zone to R1 Single Family Residence Zone.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Ulibarri. Second?
A second.
Second by Elaine Rodriguez. Roll call, please.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Ulibarri Jr., a second by Counselor Rodriguez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you, guys.
I appreciate you.
Mr. Mayor, next item on the agenda is disapproval to publish ordinance 20-12 to accept the City of Las Vegas 2020 Comprehensive Master Plan. We have Bill Hendrickson, Community Development.
Welcome, Bill, again.
Mayor, council, I'm here to ask for approval to publish ordinance 20-12 to accept the 2020 Comprehensive Master Plan. Council, at least three. Councilor, did you get a chance to look at it? Okay. So on August 5th, council and I guess everybody, a lot of people had input on any changes that had to be made to the comprehensive plan as it is on August 5th. And we will, if it's approved tonight, getting 5 draft copies of the final draft, short of a few documents like the ordinance, the adopted ordinance, when it gets adopted next month, will be in there as well. So I'll have 5 copies to hand out so you can see basically the finished copy. Friday, I think they're coming in.
Do we need to go into a public hearing, Cassandra?
No, Mr. Mayor, this is just for publication of the ordinance.
I got you. Thank you.
And then in October, we'll have the adoption and implementation of our comprehensive plan.
What's the pleasure of the council? I'll entertain some discussion. No discussion? What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, make a
Yes.
motion for approval to publish ordinance 20-12.
There's a motion by Mr. Romero, second please.
Second.
Second by Mr. Levari. Roll call please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Levari Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Levari Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Cassandra.
Next item on the agenda, I think that's it. Covers, that was the last item. Oh, no, number 5, sorry. Approval, disapproval of resolution number 20-38, support the EDA grant application by Las Vegas First IDA for Federal Economic Development Grant using CARES Act funding for fiscal year 21-22. Again, we have our Community Development Director, Bill Henderson.
Council, we're returning to this resolution again, seeking your approval to allow the City of Las Vegas to be the fiscal agent on this EPA grant. A couple key things from the last time that we did talk about this. The total request is going to be reduced to $500,000. This was on recommendation from EDA and from the North Central New Mexico COG to reduce the ask on this. And there was some questions last time about, because these are going to be, now the grant is restricted to marketing monies only for advertising and so forth. Again, this was on recommendation from EDA to focus on one aspect of marketing your community, and we think this is actually a plus. So this grant, if we win and are successful at it, and if it provides these monies, this is for 2 years that we can allocate marketing monies for Las Vegas, and actually it's for the region. We have a couple other communities that are also involved. And if you look in your package, we've got letters of recommendation from several communities, from Senator Campos, from tourism, and from the COGS, both COGS that we're involved with here, HEPCOG and North Central. And so this is for 2 years, and what we think this is such a good idea is that lodger's tax won't have to be used for marketing for the next 2 years. And we don't know what the impact is going to be. We'll know probably here in the next few weeks for our October meeting what kind of impact we've had up to this point on lodger's tax income. But we'll be able to focus on infrastructure more than we have to worry about marketing, because this grant will take care of that.
So you're saying we could use some of the money from lodger's tax for other purposes?
Yes, yes.
And do you have any idea what some of those ideas?
No, but it can be more for marketing things that could help the Riverwalk to attract people into the community, maybe signage and things like that.
Could it be possibly used to improve like a picnic area by the Riverwalk?
Sure.
Okay.
So those types of things are considered infrastructure.
Yes.
And then also, we need to complete our wayfinding project, so we can put more money into that as well.
Okay.
And so it does have some benefits from that aspect. So I did emphasize, and it is a 2-year program. So, my own personal opinion is that it's a win-win. It covers our marketing, and we get to use our monies from lodger's tax to cover infrastructure.
Very well. Discussion, Mr. Romero? I had a question, a few questions. The different communities here, the letters of support. Why was the county not supported?
That what? Yep. Oh, I didn't know if, did Mr. Wood show up tonight? Okay. Wood, do you answer that question?
I couldn't hear it, but
There's letters of support from Cimarron, from Mora County, but nothing from San Miguel County. Is there a reason why?
we have a letter of support from San Miguel County now. It just didn't get to your packet soon enough.
Okay, and the other question that I had is we mentioned these other communities that they'd be involved in it, but here we're talking about our wayfindings, it's only 500,000, so what portion of that part would go to these other communities? Would any of this money go to other communities or just ours?
Oh, okay. Very good question. This money, the use of this money is for advertising that benefits all the participating communities in the northeast quadrant. Well, it's not a quadrant, but the northeast corner of the state. So all of us get benefit. Las Vegas gets the most benefit just because we're the biggest community, and we put the joint marketing together to exactly match what we wanted to do with our local marketing. So, does that answer?
No, so kind of what a percentage, and I was kind of expecting, like a detailed budget or proposed budget of this 500,000 is, so we would know exactly, how much would go towards, let's say, the wayfind. I mean, so we don't have that type of information here as far as the, so I'm just curious, is that later on, these other communities aren't going to say, hey, well, you promised us this, and, where do we sit on that? Dr. Taylor, would you like to respond?
So, Councilor, the way this would work is that it would go 100% towards advertising and bringing people into the region. And so it would say, it would list all the kinds of things that you could do in Las Vegas or Cimarron or Mora. And when we talk about the infrastructure money, that's just money that is freed up in lodger's tax, because we currently use lodger's tax to do that kind of marketing. We would no longer need it for that purpose, and so we would now be able to use that money for infrastructure in Las Vegas.
And how soon does this money have to be spent once it's, how soon does the money have to be spent once it's appropriated?
2 years.
And then the reason why I ask is, I mean, we're still partially through our restrictions, so kind of, spending on tourism right now, would that be a benefit, or should we wait till, because right now, I mean, of course, the governor has alleviated some of the restrictions of, out-of-staters coming into the state, but for us to put it in right now, well, I mean, it's not gonna happen right away, it's gonna take, I think, October is when they mentioned the next, and they're gonna appropriate some of this money, Bill?
Yes.
So, let's say December, January, if we still have, health restrictions to where, there's still, or if it gets stricter and we start using that money, we're kind of not using that money to the benefit.
You are right on target. The project is divided into 2 parts. And the first part is recovery readiness. And that's when we work with all the different participating communities and we get all the ads built. We get the media buys lined up. And then when the state opens up again, that's when we do phase 2, which is to implement the marketing. It would be a waste right now.
And my next question is, out of the proposed 500,000, the First Business Alliance will receive how much as a, I mean, of course, we're the fiscal agent, but for them to oversee the funds?
I have the application puts in for $60,000 for administration. Just in my own mind, I'm assuming half of that is for fiscal administration and half is for project administration, which is what Las Vegas First would do for the next 2 years.
So my kind of question is, how come the city itself couldn't have done this without, I mean, or was it just Las Vegas First saw the opportunity, or could we have done it? I said, where we would have done that 60,000 versus Las Vegas First, or?
We're not necessarily staffed up to do that. So part of the monies that would go for the management would be, for instance, let's say we want to hire a firm or hire students from Highlands to help with the marketing designs and stuff like that. And some of that money will go towards that. So it's not just $30,000 cash goes in their pocket. They'll be spending that money on other things.
Anybody else?
I had a question.
Yes, go ahead.
That was some of my concern also, because I saw the planning and preparation is your phase 1, I assume. And then implementation is phase 2. And in reading some of the letters, I'd like to see, and I'm not saying this doesn't happen, but I'd like to see the money recycled in our community. And by doing that, hiring minority-owned and non-minority-owned businesses in Las Vegas to produce and build this advertising library, upgrade the website. So we're recycling and keeping the money in our community.
I am hoping very much, Dr. Rodriguez, that most of that work will be done by Highlands Media Arts, students, recent graduates, but we do have procurement codes, so it will have to go out to bid.
Correct.
Which does mean that other PR firms or design firms would have a shot.
Correct.
We
I
can't
understand.
control that.
Mr. Machado?
Mr. Mayor, I had my question. This started to be $1.4 million. How come we landed up with 500,000?
Because EDA negotiates with their potential applicants and basically won't let you put in an application they're not willing to consider.
Oh, okay. And number 2 is, how come we didn't get no letters of support from the Chamber of Commerce?
Again, it's a letter that came in after the packet was put together.
Okay. And I agree that due to this COVID, our surrounding communities are hurting. And I met with the Mora County manager this morning, and they just passed a gross lodger's tax.
Correct.
So they're going to be charging lodger's tax now. They don't know where that's going or how it's going to be or what. But what part of this $500,000 does the city put in? 20%? Do we have to match any of this 500,000?
The 500,000 would be the new money coming in. The match is, you have already done that. The city's match, you did it over about the last 3 or 4 meetings when you approved various lodgers tax board recommendations.
And that was 20%, more or less?
Correct.
Okay. So how much percentage did these other communities put into it?
They are putting in what they can. And like Mora has no lodgers tax right now. Harding County has no lodgers tax right now. So they will be putting in effort.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you'll be promoting Bean Day, the Mora Fiestas, the Cleveland Meal.
Hopefully.
All those events?
Hopefully.
Yeah. Thank you.
That was kind of my question as to, the other participation. Yes, we're supporting them. I know it's a Northeastern, but, I don't feel comfortable where, we're footing the match and what we've already done in the past, and they get a portion of the advertising or whatever. I mean, how can we hold them for, you know, a portion that they may get, or how do we do that?
Right, can I just take a stab at it? It's because we're the largest of the group. We expect to benefit more than Moore or Harding or Cimarron or whatever. We're the biggest, so we expect to recoup more of that dollar than these little communities do. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
And also, this is a regional effort, and so that's where you're going to get your points on. If we did this by ourselves, we wouldn't get anything.
Yeah.
So it is a regional effort, and that's one of the incentives of this EDA grant, is to go in it regionally because it affects a larger area.
Let me take one of the programs that we're going to specifically already know we're going to do. Las Vegas does a visitor's guide. We'll have already funded the visitor's guide. Didn't happen in 2020, it's going to have to move to 2021. With this, there will be extra pages in it where the other communities get to present their best self. What this grant will let us do is distribute that visitor's guide, which will be 80% Las Vegas, to 367,000 homes in Amarillo, Albuquerque, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, Rio Rancho. We couldn't distribute a single issue without this grant. So who benefits the most? Hopefully all the communities benefit, but we certainly benefit. That guide is one of the best presentations of what Vegas is, and it'll be on 367,000 coffee tables in the region. That's the way it'll work with all the programming.
Okay. Thank you, Ed. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Uriarri?
to approve resolution 20-38.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Uriarri. I need a second, please.
I'll second.
Second by Elaine Rodriguez. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Olivari Jr., a second by Counselor Rodriguez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, Bill. Go ahead.
Next item on the agenda is executive session.
No items?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to enter executive session for personnel matters as permitted by section 10-15-1H2 of the Municipal Open Meetings Act.
There's a motion to enter executive session. Second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to leave executive session.
There's a motion to leave executive session,
Second.
second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to note for the record that only those matters specified in the motion for closure to enter executive session were discussed and no action was taken. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to return to regular session.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Motion by Mr. Romero, second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Cassandra, for everything. I appreciate you.